Hi everyone, this is GOL from Productions², and we're here tonight to do the last bit of our 8th developers vlog for Space Crusade. This part of the vlog is going to be about the music creation end of things that I've been getting into a bit more as of late, as we're getting closer to getting done with 0.5 alpha, starting to think about ahead. Well, think way ahead actually, to the full version of the game as far as what's going to be needed for graphics and audio and whatnot. And just been spending a lot of time getting used to the programs and software and getting back in the mindset of creating music. I am somewhat musically inclined. Was in my school bands since 5th grade, all the way up to when I graduated from high school, so I'm no stranger when it comes to music or piano in general. I do take piano lessons as well, but I haven't done anything of that sort for quite a while, not since 2005. So it's kind of a steep learning curve for me, and the fact that FL Studio is so complicated, or looked complicated at first, and frankly still kind of is complicated, doesn't help too much more. And now I've added this keyboard, which is even more complicated, or complicates things even more. But I'm going to go over first, before we get into too much more, about what I'm using as far as the software and the hardware. For the software, my DAW of choice, it's DAW, I don't know what it stands, digital audio something, I forget. I think it's digital audio. Something, but you can look it up on Google if you want to figure out what it stands for. DAW is FL Studio. I guess you could say synthesizer that I like to use the most is Zeta Plus 2, which is a really awesome program. But I am getting more into using also some of FL Studio's plugins as well. And what I just recently gotten, actually, for Christmas, was this keyboard that I have now, a Roland A300 Pro. It's made specifically by the people that make Cakewalk, which is what Zeta Plus 2 is essentially built off of. Designed to be used with that software. I do have, if you can see the icon in my mess of icons here somewhere, Sonar X1LE. Really, it's a crappy program if you ask me. I can't get it to work properly with my system, whereas FL Studio will work. So it's not a problem with FL Studio, or with my computer. Since FL Studio can do things correctly, it's the software. I just cannot get it to properly output audio for some reason. But all that aside, let's go ahead and take a look at FL Studio. I have something open that I've been working on. So let's kind of go over the basics here. This is your playlist, or rather pattern list. And inside the pattern list, you have different, I guess they're called layers, so we'll call them layers. That represent different instruments inside of those lists. One thing to remember that's important is that all of your instruments that you're using will be visible at the same time. The only thing that will change is as you go through and now it's lagging. Damn, I didn't want to open that. As you go through, the instruments will change to this. Or if they have something in them like that, they'll blank out as you go through different patterns. Let's see. Trying to figure out what's going on with this here. I can just go rid of that anyway because I don't have anything we're doing with this. some reason it's not even playing what's in here. Let's go and get rid of that though. Alright, so as you go through, you see how these change depending on what layer you're on. This over here is the playlist, or rather it's a track list, not a playlist. What happens is you take your patterns and you paint them into your track list over here into a track, and then they'll all be played back together if you're in song mode or if you're in pattern mode, whichever pattern you have selected will be played. So if I go down to this one, but if I go up to pattern 4, nothing. Now if you go to song, everything is played. Supposedly, everything that's over here is played. Let's further distinguish that. So if I wanted to add playlist 3 over here, we'd select playlist 3 and then just click, and there it is. Right click will remove it. Let's see, over here you have your essential, just your basic MIDI controls up here. I believe these are master volume and master pitch. I'm not really sure what these two do, but as you can see, those are what those are labeled as. This is your tempo, so that's the speed at which the song will play. So again, let's say I want to go 130 beats. So let's go up to 130. But we want to stay on 75 because it's going to be more of an atmospheric piece. Over here is your pattern number. You can also use this to cycle through your patterns, as well as put your cursor down here and select it from this list here. Up here are a different bunch of things. I don't know what half of them do. This one allows you to use your keyboard as an actual keyboard if you don't have a keyboard, and I know it's extremely confusing. Keyboard as in your keyboard that you type with, not a keyboard that you play with. Play music with. Let's differentiate that a bit more. Since I have that unchecked right now, this adds a countdown before recording, and you'll hear that later on. This is for blend recording. I don't know what that exactly means. Loop recording, I suspect it loops through recording or something like that. This is, again, enable note clip groups. I think that's allows for clipping or grouping or something. This is how the objects will snap to different windows. So you can snap them to lines, cells, none, or to steps and beats or bars. Down here we have the metronome. The wait for input to start playing, not sure what that really does. Not sure what step editing does, or scrolls to reach. I don't know what any of these other ones do down here. Over here you have a whole list of things. You have scores, mixer presets, channel presets. You have your plugin libraries, recent files, generators, effects, patterns, which are what you currently have here, and history, which is all the different events that have happened, so you can undo them if you want to. And down here you have instrument packs and whatnot. Over here is the mixer. It's enabled by using this, I believe. Yeah. You can load your stuff into here. For example, if I want to put Zeta number 2 in here, on number 2, you just say link selected channels to this track. So we have select that channel and link to this track. So it's in there now, so I can edit the volume and whatnot. Actually, it's not enabled. There we go. And over here you can add in your different effects like delays, compressors, chorus, balance, EQ effects, scratcher, stereo enhancer, phaser, reverb, as well as these over here to add different effects. Let's go ahead and take that out. Place with none. And what else is there to go over? Early FL Studio is pretty complicated, so it's the way I've learned how to use it is just through trial and error. Add things, see what happens, and keep doing so until you figure out what the hell's going on. You saw the other program open earlier when I had clicked on one of these. Zeta Plus 2. Since I'm loading up the Steam version of it, I just copied the files over to the VST folder for FL Studio. It takes a while to open, but this is Zeta Plus 2 from Cakewalk, or whoever makes Cakewalk. It's essentially a synthesizer, and it's a pretty damn good one. There's tons of different effects and pre-created sounds that you can choose from. There's also some DLC that you can get off of Steam for it. There are a lot of options. You got the synth side of things here, where you can do the different add new EGs in, or LFOs, or filters, or oscillation patterns. There's also an arpeggiator that has quite a few arpeggios, although some of them don't work. Like I think 250 doesn't load up anything. I'm not sure why that is. You can also import MIDI files that you can create actually in FL Studio into here and use them in the arpeggiator. You also have a very large modding thing here. You can add in up to 16 different controls, I guess you can say, that you can use to influence things. Like, for instance, I could set up my keyboard here, like a switch or a knob on my keyboard to affect something, one of the settings in here, and you can just control it from the keyboard. Let's see, source. Or something like that. I'm not really sure how all this stuff works, like I mentioned. Still pretty new to how this interacts with my keyboard and whatnot, and how to do the settings, so actually I haven't been messing around with that too much. I've been trying more of just using the keyboard as it's programmed inside of, by default inside of FL Studio. And now it's not working at all. But, damn it, what did I do? Let's see, history. Oh, it's not going to show the history from Zeta Plus. Damn it. What did I do to this thing? Oh, it's on 250, that's why. Okay, there we go. Forgot to turn off the arpeggiator. So like, if we put it back on here now. That's essentially all this stuff in a nutshell. Then you get your effects over here. The way that you want the effect routing to happen, and then all your other simulators, reverbs, compression, modulation, delay, and distortions, and all the different ways you can affect that with those. That's essentially that in a nutshell. So, as you can see, I've already been working on the song that I'm trying to make down here in the melody. I'm trying to use kind of some music from EVE Online made by RealX as kind of a starting point, or rather maybe not a starting point, but how do you put it? Inspirational mechanism, I guess. Essentially, I've been trying to listen to this one, Red Glowing Dust. Also to play it for a little bit. And trying to figure out a sort of similar sounding pattern that I can use for the melody, or I guess maybe it's the harmony, I'm not really sure. And try and get something that I can fashion that sounds kind of similar, at least similar to the essential basic theme of the song itself, without actually copying the song phrase for phrase. And so I was just messing around trying to find something that sounded interesting, and I came upon this. I don't know, it's a chord progression essentially. It's just, something as simple as that, and that kind of triggered a idea of something I can build maybe around this. As far as the actual, I guess that would be the melody would go. This is more of the harmony, or what I like to call the bass. And the way I like to start off with this is, since I really suck at keeping tempo, since I'm so out of practice at doing so. So what I like to do is I like to use the piano roll you see here. I was using this before anyway, but so what I'm doing now is I'm using the keyboard to find something like what I just played. Some sort of rhythm or essential undertone sort of melody for the song. Then I go into here and figure out where they need to go. Like, for instance, since we can play them and see the notes that are being played, then we can essentially see where to stick the notes in here on the piano roll, and then we just flesh out the how long the note should be. Essentially the tempo and note length and whatnot, based on just trial and error and changing things around. So here's what I've come up with so far. I'm just gonna go ahead and let it play. That's about where I'm at now. What's going to be happening now in the melody is I'm going to be doing that whole up in the melody while this is going on. So, for example, just to show you how it would work, but we would wait until maybe the second of these started, because you want to have kind of a lead in. You don't want to start right in with your melody. You want to leave a little bit of space so there's kind of a climatic build-up, if you will. That'll make the song more interesting. So we need to switch to that should be the bass, not the melody. Damn. So what we'll do is we'll just rename these. Crap, I didn't want to do that. Rename bass 3. So we already have a bunch of basses here. Okay, bass 1 will be... What kind of sound we've loaded in here? I need to figure that out. That sounds like... It's not quite what I'm looking for. I need to see something similar to this, and that's a little too stringy. Let's go to my programs over here, load. So let's see what this sounds like. That's way too low. Let's go load up another one here. That's too jittery. Let's see, medium bill, long sustain, long echo. That ending kind of drop down's gonna be too annoying. This is one of the main problems with making music. You have to figure out something that sounds good. You don't have to actually think of a melody that sounds good. You have to figure out how you can combine different sounds together to make something that sounds good. Just, the way it sounds, not how it actually is played. Let's see, what about this? Actually sounds interesting. I think we can do something with that. What I want to do with it though is we want to change some few things here. Doesn't seem to have any effect. It's interesting. Let's see. So, let's see. That'll probably work. I want to make sure that it drops off a bit faster though. A little more maybe. A little longer, I mean. That sounds just about right. Let's add a little variation to it though. Let's put in a sign 4 with a saw up. It's not very detectable, but you can still hear it. Just adds a little bit of variation to the tone. Just to help out a little. Let's see what we can do with this. That's interesting. I actually like that. It sounds pretty, it's a little resonation. So the longer it's held down, the longer it'll resonate. Maybe a little less of that. A little more pan, more level. Let's see. That should be fun. Should be fun with that little bit of echo there. Well, let's go with that and we'll see what happens. So if you're wondering what this is about, this is actually a little trick that I learned on YouTube, I believe. What it allows you to do is, since you have the ability to what's called ghost other channels that are in the piano roll onto other channels that are in the same pattern, as you can have something like this where you have a series of ghosted notes essentially, and you can put them inside of a chord progression, or actually a chord, and then multiply, Control V, copy the chord, and move it up and down a couple octaves, and have a range of notes that you can potentially use inside of your chord progression that you can use to add variation and whatnot, but still remain within the same chord, same scale, or what have you. That's not really what I did with the what I'm doing with the melody, or rather bass section here. Bass 3. I just had the notes that I found on the keyboard and have been just kind of following that and then seeing what sounds good when paired up with them. However, I am trying to stay, I guess, within that general order, if you will. Like, for instance, this here is an octave up of what this is here. Let's get the piano roll back up so you can see it. So essentially, I just went up from E6 to E7, and the rest of the notes followed it. So we got that really interesting sound with that. So let's go ahead and play this in its entirety again, and we'll see where we go from here. So it's important to have a kind of repeating pattern in your bass or harmony, but you also want to make sure that it is not the same throughout the entire song, that there are some changes here and there just to make it not so boring. So what we're going to do now is what I said we're going to do earlier that I just remembered, which was to do the actual melody part. We're going to go back up to the melody. Or I guess it was bass 1, which we're going to rename melody here. Elodie, yes, the Elodie. Alright, so what we do is go to the piano roll, and what I want to do actually is go back to the roll for this first, and just delete these, zoom out here. Alright. So, like I was saying, find the notes. And it's apparently not playing. Oh, that's because we're in this other one, huh? That's true. So, B4. Way down here. It's actually not lighting up. That's interesting. Probably because there's nothing to play. So, a B4, D5, and EF, or F5. B4, B4, D5, F5. Alright, so let's see, then the other one, let's see, the next one is G4, B4, and D5. So G4, B4, F5, or D5. G4, B4, D5. Already have that, so with G4 down there. And then the middle ones, which is A4, C5, E5. Alright, so those are the main notes that we're using here. And now, what I want to do is I want to take these, and we're going to move them up. So we'll select them all, keep Control L down, and push up, and that'll allow you to move things up the octaves here. Alright, so let's go ahead and close this. Go back down here to our Zeta 2 roll. So let's also move them down here. We'll have this up here for some other uses, but for now we should do what we do with, like I do all the other times. Just take them all and Control C, V down, and we'll leave them in a larger pattern here. So I have several octaves of notes that we can choose from, and have them all ghosted. Alright, so back down here. G4, B4, D5. A4, C5, and E5. Alright, so, kind of, sort of, but we need to do some editing here. So those are going to be, let's knock that back down to 0 there. What we need to do now is lengthen these out to 2 each, I believe. Be our first step. And then, so oh, that's actually off a bit. Alright, so something like that. And what we want to do now is, we'll leave it like this, and let's go ahead and close this. Now we're going to add it to the tracks over here. So we do this. What I'm also going to do is, well, we'll leave this here for now. We'll have to get rid of it later. So we want to move this over so that we are lined up here with our second group here. These are kind of off That's interesting. Let's go back to the bass 3 real quick. Yeah, like these here. It's very strange. Because we have these half ones here, that's why. So let's go ahead and pull these out. Make sure we get everything where it needs to be here. Crap. So we're on a line somewhere here, on a measure line. So what we'll do with these is we'll make them a beat and a half. Won't really be lining anything up with them, I don't think. But I think we'll have to make these a beat and a half. Oops. As long as they start on one of these measure lines here, or beat lines. Alright, let's go ahead and now add our melody in. So that's how it sounds with the melody added. For at least the first couple bits there. Definitely a little too fast, so we'll have to go in and try and finagle a little bit here. So let's go back to melody. Damn it. If you're going to have to right click, you can click on this here to get into the piano roll. If it's showing, if it's not showing, you have to right click and go to the piano roll or use the shortcut. So what I want to do now is let's go ahead and add two spaces of, let's add a 2-beat space between each one of these. This is the long way to do it, but make sure everything's evenly spaced. Oops. Now what we'll do is we'll increase the length of each of these to 3 beats. So actually we should be doing 3 spaces, not 2. Damn. So now we have to go through and do it in the opposite direction, which is even more annoying. Let's go and increase all these by 1 beat. Let's do it from here. That's still not quite right. So what we want to do is maybe shrink it down even further. I'm not sure how we'd go about doing this. So what we want to do is we want to see if we can get each of these inside of the same phrase as, in other words, so you have the first 4 notes within inside of this guy here. What we should do then is, which is a dirt moment, is make each of these segments 1 measure long, and then have each of these be a beat long. So you have 4 beats to a measure, and so you get 4 of these inside of one of these. This is kind of the musical theory stuff you need to think about when you're working on this crap. Alright, so essentially we can just do it this way. I think. Well, maybe not. See, so the major thing is going to be trying to figure out how to get this stuff into what we need it to be. Move that down there. So this over. Oops. Just want to try and get some breathing space between these. That'll probably cause a whole nother set of issues. So what's that sound like now? Well, that didn't sound right. Where did we go wrong at? Oh, it should be 1 lower. Alright, and then we put a whole... Let's say how many beats is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 beats. So that's half a measure. I guess we go up to a whole measure now or something. Maybe not. I'm not sure. We'll keep it as 4 and we'll see what happens. Use yourself too. So start there. That's where it's going to get interesting. So we've got these two. We'll treat these as 1 beat now. And so we'll have essentially have 1 beats here. So knowing about doing it this way is that you can't snap on the size of the notes. So for these you may just want to redo them entirely. So The important thing is that the phrase takes up a full measure of notes. So this will be two beats now. And this will be, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah. Alright. So I'll have to bring these in by 1. It still isn't quite enough for these. Oh, this needs to be smaller. Maybe have these be 1 note as well. Or 1 beat, rather. Of course, then these need to be, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1 more on each of these. And so in between these two, we also want to have another full set of things. Let me go ahead and restart the recording real quick here. Make sure we don't get up to 126 gigabytes. So for these, let's back a bit here. We want to make sure we get a whole measure there as well. So this is about a quarter of a measure, so we want to make sure this is there. Alright, that should be 4 and 4. Yeah. And these need to be increased to a measure long, so So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it's the same length, alright. It's really very technical. Alright, then do the same for this. With 2 in between. And that's too long. Or maybe not. I guess not. Oh wait, we're one off. Alright, it's gonna bring over the next group. So you want to be 4 on this one. Half a measure, essentially. Or in actuality. Alright. I do the same thing with these. Want these to be a measure. So, to there. Gotta check every once in a while to make sure not making too long. I don't think it would, hurt it too much, but it might sound weird eventually if you're doing something and it's not properly lined up with others. So these, delete those first. We'll just go and select this. And then we want to do the higher version here. So 1, and then we need to extend these another 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah. So that'll be the first phrase, if you will, for the song. Let's go ahead and play it from the beginning. Let's go ahead and set it to 120. I remember 130. Now let's go 140. So, I put it down to 120. Let's go to 125. The trick with this is if you have to make things longer, then you need to increase the tempo to get the same sound. In and of itself, increasing the tempo doesn't do anything.